thriving, not just surviving the holidays. And before we get into the topic, I just want to tell you a tiny bit about me, just so you know who I am, where I'm coming from. So my name is Lisa Zimmerman. I'm a certified health coach and a personal trainer and a yoga instructor. And I have a practice that serves Long Island. I've been a coach and a trainer for 17 years. And mostly what I do is address lifestyle change as a first line in intervening with certain lifestyle diseases, which is a whole other topic. But I also have an eclectic medical background. I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry, in neuroimaging research, and I currently work in concierge medicine and have my own practice. And I am very interested in lifestyle medicine and using lifestyle medicine to prevent or treat very specific diseases. But what I really want to talk about tonight is the holidays, because the holidays are coming, and typically they can make us a little anxious or a little bit uncomfortable. So let's just dive into this and talk about this. So what I want to say is a little bit, just a tiny bit about myself, is that even though I'm a trainer and I'm a health coach and a personal trainer and a yoga instructor, I haven't always been well. And what I mean by well is just, getting sleep, avoiding risky substances, eating well, moving my body. So most of my youth and most of my 20s, I spent a lot of time not feeling well, being tired, always being on diets. I was a smoker. I ate a lot of junk food. I thought Oreos were vegan, so therefore that means that they're good for you. And I was always getting colds and I was always sick. So in my 20s, I had Stony Brook Insurance. That was the college I went to. And I would go from doctor to doctor and say, I don't feel really good. They do blood work. Everything came up okay. And it wasn't really until one physician said to me, you know what, I don't think that there's anything wrong with you. I just think that maybe you're depressed, which is fine. That's a fair diagnosis. But I didn't feel depressed. And it was really interesting to me that not one physician in all that time had asked me, what are you eating? How much sleep are you getting? Are you moving your body? Do you smoke? Are you drinking a lot of alcohol? Do you have a stress reduction plan? Do you have positive social connections? So lifestyle medicine. Never was that asked. And it's really not their fault because most physicians aren't trained in this way. We only just started at Stony Brook University to create, 4 years ago, we developed a lifestyle medicine selective for fourth year medical students. So this is a very new concept. But when I changed my lifestyle, when I started to kind of see how the smoking and the eating, sugar and caffeine all day long and not exercising and everything else I was doing, when I really made that connection about how it affected me, everything started to change. I became more healthy overall. Obviously, I quit smoking, but I was more optimistic. I was more creative. I wasn't always drinking coffee, 5-6 cups a day, eating cookies and going on that sugar, caffeine up and down type of roller coaster. My moods were more balanced. And I think a lot of that had to do with the sugar up, sugar down. And because of this, my relationships improved. I think I was probably less annoying to family members, if I have to guess. I never asked them, and just in general, I was more confident. I had better self-esteem. I wasn't uncomfortable physically in my body, fighting it. It was more like I was just kind of at ease. And I had a little bit of weight to lose, not a lot, and I didn't even have to think about it. It just kind of came off. So now I'm in my early 50s, and I feel better than I ever did in my 20s, which is kind of ironic because in your 20s, you're supposed to be this vital, really super alive human being, which most 20-year-olds are. You're not supposed to be sleeping in the middle of the day in the physics department. So food and lifestyle have a lot to do with who we are. It doesn't solve everything, but it's a huge component of life. So let's talk about the holiday season. So the holiday seasons a wonderful time of year. I love them. I am Jewish. I celebrate Hanukkah. I celebrate Christmas with my friends. If someone would invite me to Kwanzaa, I would come over. I absolutely love the season. I love that at the end of the fall, when things just get kind of like, the leaves are gone and everything's kind of dark and blah. And then all of a sudden we have these gorgeous lights and beautiful songs and traditions. So it goes from about Halloween to Thanksgiving. And we have this like incredible momentum, right? Halloween starts and then all the way to the end of the year. What's the issue is that we start getting blitzed with this gift giving and marketing stuff, and we start receiving social media and flyers and stuff that tell us we have to do things a certain way that are not necessarily grounded with what we want and our values. So that's just one thing to consider. We have to deal with relatives. I love my family. I love my relatives, but we do annoy each other, right? And then there's some relatives that are just in a place where we can't always support them and help them, and it makes it hard for them to be around, but we want to include them. So that's another piece. Holiday parties. Well, we're in a pandemic and it's COVID-19, so I'll put that aside. But what I will say is a lot of people are saying, let's do this grab bag, let's do that grab bag. So it's kind of that same feeling, but it's a little less stressful than having to go to all those parties. So maybe that's a positive thing. Spending a lot of money, we feel obligated to really, make this special, make this the best thing ever. And so we do invest a lot of money in it. And that's not a bad thing. But it's not necessarily optimal if in February you realize, what, I overspent and now I'm in a place where I'm uncomfortable financially. And then the food environment changes. So we kind of go about the year, but then from October to December, everything changes and we have all these amazing seasonal things that I love, peppermint, chestnuts, all kinds of like different aromas and smells come in. But they make you feel like, oh gosh, if I don't eat this now, I won't have it again for another year. And I'll talk about Halloween and candy to give you an example of the scarcity mindset, because we're going to talk about that in a little while. So holidays can be stressful, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the stress, but then I want to go into giving you a holiday toolbox so you can walk away from this feeling a little bit less stressed. I want to remind you that you have a chat button on the bottom of your screen. So if you'd like, you can send me a message or you can send a message to Jennifer, the coordinator, and she can let me know, just in case you want to talk. I don't like to lecture and I miss having the ability to go back and forth and talk with people. So that is one way we can do that. So this is the image versus reality. We kind of have the Facebook, the highlight reel. I'm not putting pictures of my child going, Mom, I don't want to go to school today. I'm showing pictures of him and his dad, maybe like working on some kind of engineering project. So we have our highlight reel, and holidays evoke that in us. We want that wonderful image of just like sipping cocoa and there's a fire and I just want to dive into that beautiful picture of luscious chocolateness, and it's all wonderful. And this is part of it. We want to embrace the realities here then, and I think hot chocolate should be part of it. But the other part of it is that unfortunately our life still needs to go on. And so what happens is we get this almost like restriction or negativity because we still have all these expectations of the holiday. And then in addition to that, we still need to do laundry. We still need to cook dinner, and we still need to sleep. And so then what happens as we try to fulfill this ideal holiday thing, we have also the reality with a lot of industries, even now, that at the end of the year, we're coming down to a financial deadline or a fiscal year. So these end of the year deadlines come. And then because it's the holiday season and we want to do lovely things for people that we care about, charities, everybody that is in our life, these aren't bad things, but then we have extra errands to run, and then we have to buy gifts, and then we have to go grocery shopping. And then we have to do a holiday meal preparation. And quite honestly, I'm someone who cooks, and so is my husband. And he sent me like a holiday meal preparation cooking thing, and I was like, oh gosh, there's a lot on there. I mean, it can be overwhelming. And imagine if you're a person who doesn't normally meal prep. So that can make it super overwhelming. And then the parties, the decision to, well, do I want a whole Thanksgiving? Okay, yeah. You know why? Because my mom is 90 and I want to be around her. So how do I make this work? Okay, so I have one table in each room and I have the windows open and maybe some people are masked and it's only 6 people, and that's how we do this. So there's a lot of stress around how do I keep myself safe, my family safe, but still have that connection. So that's a whole different stress. And that unfortunately is not something I can completely cover this evening, but I will try to weave it in because we're all going through that right now. The other thing on a lot of people's minds is, oh, the holidays are coming and I'm planning for this. And then New Year's resolutions. So joining a gym, that is has its own set of issues. I want to practice yoga. I want to be more peaceful and at ease. Well, just so let you know, I do free yoga classes. So you can always talk to me about that. And they're through Zoom. And some people like it and some people don't. Some people want to be in a yoga studio with their teacher there. So we have these ideas of lifestyle, things that we want to change. We want to quit smoking, maybe we want to drink less. So that's also in the back of our minds. And then we go on this kind of like holiday diet wheel where we find ourselves overweight. Then we go on a restrictive diet rather than creating lifestyle change. Because if something is not sustainable, it's not lifestyle change. Lifestyle is something that you do for the rest of your life. You tweak it along the way. So we go on this very restrictive diet. Then we have a breaking point, and then the holidays come, and I just love Christmas cookies. They're beautiful, but we get them in mass quantities. So it's not like we're getting one here or two here. It's like this incredible quantity of goods that are seasonal that are being thrown at us, which are super hard to say no to because it's scarcity. You only get this once a year. You may not get this again, and you don't see them that often. So we kind of go on this wheel and around and around. And so it's an interesting thing. Now, I put this in here for humor. Normally, I would talk to you guys about it and we'd all be laughing. I'm just going to be quiet for a moment and let you read it. But it's funny. It's just a joke about relatives and how they can sometimes be silly and annoy us. And this guy's just basically saying, he's looking for a wine that would be good to pair with a difficult relative. And then I put another one in, and this person's like, well, it's light bulbs. You're bringing friends over, and the Christmas lights are like, we're Christmas lights. When one goes out, we all go out. So it's just super cute and funny, and just brings kind of levity to the situation. And the last one is this one. It's a Christmas group therapy. You have Santa, you have a snowman, you have a reindeer, and I guess it's a elf. And basically they're all like talking. Santa's like, I don't believe in myself. That's funny. The snowman's, I think I'm bipolar, and the reindeer is saying what he's saying, and the elf feels like he's not going to get another job. So super cute. Obviously everybody's feeling stress, and that's why we have these funny little anecdotes here. Now, this is from a personal client that I worked with, not in the medical practice, my own personal practice. And this to me summed up what I think a lot of people feel. I'm not saying it's what you feel, but what she was feeling. And I feel like a lot of people have said to me, and she said, the message that I hear around the holidays is that it's all about family, but I don't have that anymore. It becomes stressful to try and find something I can do to fill that for Thanksgiving and Christmas. As soon as Mariah Carey starts to sing, All I Want for Christmas Is You, I know that the insanity is going to start. So for her, this is stressful. This is not a time that she wants to hear that. It seems like for the last months, people tell me that one of the great things about the holidays is that there's a feeling of love and strangers and our neighbors, but I feel the opposite way. So this time of year where we're supposed to feel connected and happy and joyful, she's saying that, it's just an unhappy time for her, and the parking lot is all filled up and it's just stressful for her. And so maybe we can all relate to this on some level. I wouldn't say that I relate to everything she's saying, but I can definitely understand the parking lots, for example, being just overloaded. So it's an example of somebody could feel during this time. The other thing is, I think that we tend to do too much. So we almost put ourselves in a position of experiencing too much of a good thing and really wanting it to make it just like super special, super perfect. It's the only time of year. But when we end up feeling really frazzled and burnt out and unfulfilled, when what it is we're looking for is connection, especially now. I think that the times we're living in has really shown us things that are really important, and we're realizing that health is really important, positive social connections are important, and the thing when those things are disrupted, that how much we appreciate them. And so we're starting to see that. And so because we're not able to have those connections, that adds a different level of holiday stress that we didn't have before. The other thing is that we also get into an eating and kind of like a drinking and spending mindset just for this time of year. And, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when this overindulgence in the spending and the rich desserts and the excessive alcohol adds stress to your life, then it's not a good thing. I am not anti-dessert. I'm not anti-alcohol or, spending money. I think all these things are wonderful when they're done in a way that adds to your life and not takes away. So unfortunately, what happens, a lot of people will find themselves, usually by February or March, they have holiday debt. Then there's the weight gain, because I talked about that October through December kind of food push from, the holiday industry. And then some people, holiday parties. I don't think we have this now, but doing silly things. I remember in corporate world, there was a lot of that. So the other thing is, as much as we love our family, and a lot of us are seeing them through Zoom, there can be a lot of triggers that happen when we see them all the time, and when we are in a situation with them during the holidays. And so the extended family together can sometimes have little button pushing, or we kind of go back to the role that we played in the family as a child. And so sometimes these things come up. And even if you are super in love with your family, you're close with them, as I am with mine, there can be this like overdose of like, we've been together for too long, we need to kind of have some space. So it's really important to talk to your spouse and kind of set a boundary and say, you know what, not only because of what's going on right now, let's plan how long everybody's going to be here, and make it like so-and-so time to time. That way it takes the stress off of, it's 1:00 in the morning, they're still here, I don't know when they're going to go home, and I have to get up and go to work at 5, because I've seen that happen in my own life and some of my clients and patients' life. So another thing to really consider this time of year is that the light is changing, and a lot of people are, I don't have statistics, I can't tell you the percentage, but I know that a lot of people are affected by the seasonal affective disorder, we call it SAD. And that is really caused by the diminishment of daylight. So we're getting less sun, we're getting less warmth, starting to get cold, it's dark in the morning, it's dark when you get home, and that really affects people. And it affects them, my understanding, through their eyes, through and into the brain. There's like a circadian rhythm that is disrupted. And so people really sincerely feel this experience from having everything kind of get dimmer and lighter. So it's not typically recognized. It may be screened in primary care, but it's really not discussed a lot. So I know that there are treatments for it. I understand there's some kind of UV light that can be provided to a person if they go see their physician and get a prescription. I don't know a lot about this, but it's just something to be aware of, because I feel it. I know that other people experience it, and maybe it's anecdotal, but it is really, really known to be in scientific and medical literature to be something that many of us experience. So I just want to put that out there so you have that. And want to really get into talking about strategies. My hope for you today is for you to walk away with maybe one thing. So if you have pen or paper, I invite you to get out that pen and paper. Some people take notes on their phone. I don't. I like to use pen and paper, and just be open to maybe writing one thing down that you want to implement. And that makes a difference. You know, when we went to school, high school or college, we took notes so we remember things. When you take notes, typically you might be a little bit more accountable because you write it down and then you see it the next day and you said, oh yeah, you know, that meant something to me. Maybe I want to think about that today. So let's think of holiday seasons as amazing and beautiful. I absolutely love them. I love Christmas. I love Hanukkah. I love all the holidays. I think they're amazing, but there can be stress in there. So you have to prepare yourself and say, okay, there's going to be stress in there, and I know what it is. I know what it typically looks like. Let me come up with some strategies that I can do so it's not going to be that stressful. I also need to know in my mind that it's going to end. So maybe you do all nights of Hanukkah with your family. Maybe you do all days of Christmas. Maybe it's just the 25th of December. So just knowing in your mind, you know, there's an endpoint here, and I'm going to get through that. You can do a kind of like a mindset planning, like a preventative medicine mindset for your life. And what you're doing is saying, you know what? I know that there's 3 specific things that need to be there so my mom's happy, or so my kids are happy, or my kids are happy. And it's going to be, the tree has to be up. You know, they love that noodle dish. And there's that like snow globe that my grandson likes to play with. And so be very aware of those things that are super important and that are big tasks maybe, and get them done in the beginning so you're not rushing around. So you're front loading the big stuff. Like Rockefeller Center, you know, went and got that big tree that looks weird because it's not set up yet, but like they're front loading, they're getting the big stuff done first. So think of it that way, whether it's a recipe, whether it's your tree, whether it's a certain tradition, and then get that pen and paper out, make that to-do list, and categorize things as, I need to start doing this now. Those holiday cards, I want to send them out. Maybe I should begin a little bit list now, or maybe I can assign a little bit of due dates to certain things. So just a tiny bit of planning really takes stress out because you know it's going to get done. And then you can break those tasks down and put them on your calendar. I use my phone. So I know people who write everything down, they use calendars. My phone is my brain, everything's in there. And so you could make little weekly tasks, like go find the recipe that you like, that you wanted to cook, and go find where the Christmas tree, because we're not sure if it's in the shed or in the attic or if we threw it out. So you're kind of breaking down your assignments so that everything is going to be okay sooner than later, and you not rushing at the last minute. You really, really want to set your priorities, especially now. These holiday traditions are so special and they come once a year. And so we want to really share them with people, but we can get super overwhelmed by that flurrying of baking and caroling and shopping and visiting relatives and everything else. So it's really deciding what is the most important thing for you. So it might be, I'm going to do that latke beet recipe that I wanted to do for the past couple of years. And I'm going to put that recipe out, and I want to do caroling. You know, that's so important to me. And I know that my church has a caroling thing that I can do, and we're all like safe and singing beautiful hymns, and maybe people are giving us money and we're fundraising for the church, and that is my priority. And or you know what, I love baking cookies, and that's my thing, and I am baking dozens and dozens of cookies and leaving it on everybody's doorstep. love people like you. Those are great. So, but it's really about deciding what is most important to you and not doing all of them. Just saying, those are the 3 or 4 things that I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to overwhelm myself. I'm not going to exhaust myself. And so it is okay to eliminate things. It's okay to say no, especially now. So I want you to have fun. I want you to carol. I want you to bake. I want you to decorate, but just pick 2 or 3 things that are the most important to you and enjoy them. The other thing is taking shortcuts. So I love sending out cards. I have always been that way since a child. I'm the kid who had pen pals. I love cards, but I've had years where I'm like, I cannot send out cards every single year. It's just too much for me. So some years I would send out emails, or I'd go through my phone and I'd send out text messages, and I would other years send out cards. And you know what? Nobody cared. They welcomed whatever I did. So if you have this tradition and you feel like it's overwhelming and you can't delegate it to someone else, it's okay to do other things. Maybe just pick the 20 people that you want to send a card to and just do that. So try to make it work for you. Baking. I love to bake, but my thing with baking is when I start baking, I eat everything. And that's my area of weakness, is sugar. So I love to bake and I will do it a couple times a year, but I generally try not to. So if you love baking or absolutely can't stand it, there is nothing wrong with buying baked goods. Nobody has ever gone to a party or been handed an Entenmann's donut thing or whatever and said, oh, no, that's not good enough. I don't want this here. It's like, it's baked goods. No one's going to be upset. They always are good no matter what. And if you just don't want to do it, it's okay. The other thing that you can do is take some shortcuts. So we can scale down activities, especially right now. We're in the position we actually have to scale down activities. So a lot of people tell me they're not comfortable with the suggestion. I absolutely love getting gift cards. I know a lot of people say I don't like them, but if you find that just trying to find gifts for a very specific person is really overwhelming, it takes away the stress, especially if you have a list this long. I notice when kids become about 13 or 14 or 15, they don't want gifts. They want gift cards. They want some Minecraft or whatever, thing. I don't even know what they want anymore, but it usually works better with them. And then we're not getting invited to parties as much, but there's a lot of these sister grab bags, things I've been seeing on social media, and I've gotten probably 15 invitations. So just be a little bit choosy, just kind of select which ones you want to be in, and don't feel like you have to accept every invitation, because it can get a little bit overwhelming and it's really hard to keep track of things. So what I always say is choose 1 or 2 organizations that maybe you want to donate to, and then choose 1 or 2 parties, or in this case, Zoom virtual kind of activity that you would like to participate in. And that makes it so that you're participating, but you're not getting overwhelmed and adding so much in to your plate that really is already full at this time of year. The other thing you can do is, if you have people to delegate to, hold on, I'm getting a sip of water, is delegate. If you were here right now with me live, I would make you say this with me, but since you're not here with me, you're virtually here with me, I feel your energy. I would make you say, I don't have to do it all. And it's so quiet. It's so funny because when people, I have them say it in a group, it's super quiet and they're saying it. And then by the second or third time, you're like, yeah, I don't have to do it all. You don't have to do it all. And don't worry if it's not done perfectly. I have this saying that, and I say it to my husband because he's very much a perfectionist, done, not perfect. Just get it done. It's not like I am designing a spacecraft that is going to go into space and people's lives are dependent on this. So complete, not perfect, is good enough. And the goal is really just to give yourself some breathing room and even including your loved ones in those preparations. So, for a while in my early adulthood, the kitchen was a place where I'm like, it's my kitchen. But I realized as I was having children, you have to include them because how else are they going to learn to cook? And so letting the husband, letting the uncle, letting the mother-in-law, letting everybody into your kitchen and just like giving them something they can do makes it easier for you. And it also is a really beautiful bonding experience. Just, if you have that luxury of having those family members together, it's really, really nice to have that. Giving family members tasks is really helpful. So if you are super into present wrapping and you are overwhelmed with the food prep and you're decorating, just asking someone else to do it. And you know what? Maybe they're going to take a bunch of popcorn and string it up and wrap it around the Christmas tree, and that's not what you had planned. Maybe you can just say, okay, that's what you guys did together and it looks good. Just kind of delegating and just saying, okay, that looks nice. It's a lesson that I'm learning myself, just to kind of let other people do what they're going to do. And as long as they don't set the tree on fire, it's fine. So the other thing is really keep it simple. I don't know about you, but for me as a child, my most treasured holiday memories are the smell of the latkes, the friends coming over, the spinning of the dreidel, going over to friends' houses that celebrate Christmas, seeing their Christmas tree, opening up presents, eating the food with their family that they celebrated. It was all about that. It was about the food. It was about the funny songs. It was about the relatives. It was about the crazy dog who ran under the Christmas tree and wrecked all the presents. It was about the funny stories. It was never about anything other than that. It was not about the money. It wasn't about the stress. It was just about being together. And it was just about positive social connections. So I encourage you to keep it simple and remember that that's really what it's all about. And especially this year, I think we know so much about how gratitude can play a big, big place in how we view things. So our minds are like tape recorders. And I hope I'm not dating myself. I said this to someone recently and they were like, you mean, yeah, tape recorders. Okay, so I'm dating myself. Tape recorders rewind and they fast forward. That's how our minds work. They travel, they're time traveling. So our minds rewind, our minds fast forward, traveling to the past, traveling to the present, but we don't press play. So often we're not here. We are here physically. Maybe we're in the shower and we're like, washing our hair, but our mind is thinking about, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. So we're not present. And when you're not present in your own life and you're worrying about things that happened already or what can happen, you're kind of missing out. So gratitude is a tool that you can use to bring yourself back in. And when you are in a state of gratitude, when you're thinking about things that you're happy about, that you're grateful for, you can't be negative. It's absolutely impossible. And I challenge you to try this. So practicing gratitude, thinking about, you know what? My life is XYZ right now because of the pandemic, and maybe it's worse, maybe it's better, maybe it's the same, but I still have my health. I still have a roof over my head. I still have food. I still have, my best friend in my life, whatever it is. And so really focusing on that. And so when we focus on gratitude, on being grateful, on thankfulness, it's hard to be in a negative mind state. So one thing you take away today is just shifting into that when you're in the car, maybe driving and you're like, oh, I got 15 more minutes to get there, and just reflect, what am I grateful for right now? Oh, my back pain's not here today. It's a beautiful way to shift your perspective. Holidays really, really are a chance to focus on the things that we have. I love this time of year because it's really the only time of year that we openly start saying, let there be peace on earth. That's a song. Or we start thinking about people who maybe are cold, or not that we don't think about these things, but we sing about it, we talk about it, we pray about it, we share about it. We do care about everybody all throughout the year, but the holidays is a time where it's brought up more so, and it's a conversation. So thinking about your fortune, and maybe if you have something that you can share with others, the holiday season is a wonderful time to do that. And maybe just for yourself is shifting from I'm going to be stressed out about this to maybe I'm going to find moments of gratitude or mindfulness or peacefulness or just being at ease just a little bit. And that leads us to something that we can actually do, which is what tools do we have that we can address when we know that we're in a situation where we're now starting to have people over or starting to go to parties, and we are feeling that we're going to maybe overindulge on some of these special edition October through December types of food that we only see this time of year. So I always say to people, please try not to go food shopping when you're hungry, and please try not to host a food gathering while you're hungry. Try to eat foods that are nourishing, that are not going to raise your blood sugar and make your blood sugar imbalanced and have you crash. So just snack on some fruits or veggies or nuts or seeds, and just I'm not saying don't eat what you're going to eat at the party, but just set yourself up so you're not ravenous. Because what I see a lot of people doing is they're prepping to have all of these meals ready and get this party ready and to have their family over, and they're so excited, but they haven't stopped to nourish themselves. So when immediately some kind of food comes in and gets set up to go out on the table, and it might be a tray of cookies, they'll grab that because they need something, because they haven't stopped to give themselves attention. So that's what I'm saying. In between what you're doing as you're prepping, stop and engage in self-care. Self-care doesn't mean me first, it means me too. So just remember that. It's okay to enjoy. I think that there is no good food and there is no bad food. I like to eat and I like to move my body without guilt. And so what I say is, please don't label these things as forbidden or off limit. However, if something is an allergen to you or you have an intolerance, it's obviously going to be forbidden or off limit. I am unfortunately not someone who can eat any dairy products. So yes, they are forbidden. But generally speaking, I don't like to use those terms. I think they're very negative, and food is not something that we should be thinking of in those terms. So sometimes what I see people do is say, I'm going to starve the entire day so I can eat this Christmas meal. And what I say is, that's going to lead to you binging, and that is leading to you with a very negative perspective about food and how you're eating. So what you could say is, this evening is going to be a very heavy meal. It's Christmas. We're having the usual stuff that my family makes. I'm not going to starve myself, but I'm going to eat a little bit lighter earlier in the day. So if you see the difference, one was, I'm going to punish myself so I can have pleasure later. Or the other one was, I'm aware that I want to overindulge later, and I'm okay with that. And so I'm just going to moderate myself. So there's a difference in the way you speak to yourself about food and eating. Moderation is key. It doesn't always work, but just trying to understand that you want to keep the alcohol to 1 to 2 drinks. You want to keep the donut to half a donut. You want to just be reasonable about your serving size, so that way you can have a lot of everything. So being really selective, it's almost like you have a palette on your plate and you're like, I'm having half the donut, and I'm not going to ask you to put alcohol with your donut. But what I'm saying is, you're taking your plate and you're putting these little portions of everything. And that way you're enjoying a little bit of everything. And it's almost like a painter's palette. And it's just such a nice way to enjoy the food, rather than doing what can happen, which is when we overindulge. So I want to talk a little bit about food, because it comes up a lot in my practice, and it comes up a lot during the holidays. So just realize something is that we are emotional beings, and we have feelings, and we have thoughts, and we have needs, whether we want to admit that or not. And sometimes food soothes us, and sometimes food is something that provides comfort and fills us. And so it will fill unmet needs. And it doesn't mean you have to, explore this any more than just for 1 second, but sometimes asking yourself, hey, is the food meeting that need? And if it is, then that just means that you have to work on your relationship with food, especially this time of year. It's just something to be aware of because it gets heightened at this time of year because there's the stress and then there's all those like incredible foods that come out at this time of year. The other thing is there is a scarcity mindset that happens during this time of year. And I'll give you an example in my own life. So Halloween, I love Halloween. I can't wait for it. I get so excited. I'm going to go trick-or-treating and I'm looking at my son's pumpkin basket and looking at all these delicious candies. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, it's so weird to me that this is exciting me because I could go get a Snickers any time of year. I can go get, I shouldn't be saying brand names. I can go get Halloween candy any time of year. So it's being presented, it's being marketed in a way that makes it seem like I'm not going to have it and that it's special. And it's really not. So Halloween candy can be purchased at any time. I didn't need to go and attack my son's Halloween candy and make him a little annoyed. The other thing is our relationship with food is a skill. So don't expect to be able to shift things, in one holiday season or overnight. It really is a skill set and it's really, really deeply embedded culturally, psychologically, and emotionally. But what I want to say is if you feel that food and your relationship with it is something that you are looking to work on, just remember that it is a skill like any other skill. It's like working with your child and having them tie their shoes. My son's finally doing that. It's super exciting. Or having them make their bed, or when they learn to walk, or when they learn to grab things. So skills, it is a skill in that sense. And so I want you to think about it that way because you would never yell or get frustrated at a child for not being able to walk or do other things. And so we should have that same compassion and kindness towards ourselves when we're trying to make changes. Last thing I want to leave you, the second last thing I want to leave you with this. If there's anything that you wrote down tonight and you said, you know what, that's something I want to implement, that's something I want to do, tomorrow I'm going to do it, please, please, please do it tomorrow, because there's the law of diminishing intent. And really what it means is that the longer you wait to do something that you probably should do now, whether it's for your job or your health or whatever, the greater the odds that you will never actually do it. And I'm going to give you an example in my own life. So I'm getting up at 6 a.m. and I put my sneakers on and my running gear on. I'm like, I'm going to go and run a mile. And then I'm going to come back home. I'm going to start work. But let me check my email first. And what happens? I get sucked into the vortex. Start going into email land. And by 12 o'clock, I'm still in my running gear. I'm still in my exercise clothing. And I'm fully into doing work. And do you think I exercised that day? No. So it's a sense of immediacy of if I want to do this now, I need to do this now. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. I've experienced this. So many of my clients have experienced this. So I want to give this to you because I want anything that you choose to glean from this presentation tonight, I want for you to really make it happen for yourself. So the last thing I say is that everything about the holidays is amazing, the food and everything else. But I love this because I just think it's a lovely holiday bucket list. And they're saying instead of buying presents, be present. Instead of wrapping gifts, wrap someone in a hug. And I know we're not supposed to hug people. So, hey, you hug whoever you want, elbow, fist bump, do what you need to do. Sending gifts or sending love, shopping for food, maybe donating some food, making cookies. I'm not against making cookies, but they're also saying making memories. And then instead of seeing the lights, which I love to say, being the light. So it's just a lovely way of saying there's things that we can do outside of what has been prescripted for us to do that can make the holidays so beautiful. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here this evening and coming to this program. I know it's not easy to be Zooming. I really appreciate you being here. If there's anything that you would like to share, we will stop recording this program so you can ask questions. You are welcome.